What is going on, everybody? BobbyFi with Eric Sheetshaber. We're going to be talking through this massive Tuesday slate. But first, Sheets, great job last night. You said exactly what you were doing and what it looked like you were getting, and it came through. I was hoping I would see some shots in the Discord, and I didn't check again until this morning. But yeah, that was awesome, man. Talk a little bit about
yeah. So I really just basically went with the Sims yesterday, and listen, we talked about this. The Arizona was the best play, but you just didn't want to play them. That's just the way it is. And the White Sox, listen, Detmers was a really good play too, but you had good leverage against them with cheap guys, and I have to thank you because I was this is DraftKings first, so I was going to throw out Benintendi, but you told me he's probably actually not bad left-handed, so I threw him in, and it's so funny. I want to show you something really funny. So here is the sheets open, by the way.
Oh yeah,
this is the 400. I got second. But what's really funny about it, like you'll see that, like once again, like just way ahead of these other guys. But the one guy missing was this one I didn't play Benintendi.
This was on Benintendi.
So the guy had basically the exact same lineup I did, except Benintendi instead of Deloach, and that was that. But aside from that, let's get back to the baseball again. Yeah, this one was like White Sox stuff, and even the zero from Adames. This was, I think, some of these are various immaculate innings, maybe, or this was the battery, maybe. Yeah, third in the battery, which was really, really good with 2 zeros. So this one had the Benintendi with his billion points, but yeah, and I went 5 for 5, like min cashing in the immaculate inning, which was fine. But then in the FanDuel, which I displayed right on the board here. This one didn't require much, but what this got me, what this one, the key to the success here was the one-off of Dansby Swanson. Yeah, I didn't stack the Cubs, but I just had the one-off there, and this one also had a couple of duds, but Imanaga did really well, and I ran a little bit poorly. I had like a bunch of shots. I mean, listen, of the 8 runs that the White Sox scored, like 7 were in the first inning.
Right.
And they had plenty of chances, but the White Sox, so you can't expect too much. And I don't know where everybody came up with this Palante play, but people had him.
Yeah.
But second in this, listen, I'll listen. As long as nobody plays this, I'm going to keep playing it.
Absolutely, you do. Why not? You're first and second, like it feels like all the time.
Like tonight it's paying a lot more, but everybody's going to play it. Like tonight's tonight's a 444 paying like $550K, so it's not going to be as easy. But listen, we're still going to play it. But yeah, overall, a very, 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 very decent night. More made up in the NFL where I was one catch away from taking it down at the end. Actually,
really?
This is stupid to say, but like if instead of London catching the final pass in the end zone, it would have been Mooney. Then I would have. I had Mooney captain, who would have got me like tied for probably would have been like 100,000 actually.
Oh my God!
But you can't say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know, but
any $100,000 other things can happen.
He almost broke free too on that last drive. I hate to point it out, but he did.
Yeah. And then the people that did win, it was like an amazingly legendary showdown result. Like they needed everything to happen, and they needed once the Eagles didn't complete their 4th down. And it was basically just Atlanta had to take a couple of knees. They took the first knee, and not for no reason, but just to kind of play it out. Like Sirianni called his last time out, even though it didn't matter. But it just to show that he was coaching to the end. He called his last time out, which means that Cousins had to take one more knee and lose 1 more yard.
Oh my God! Yeah,
which propelled a couple of people we know up to 100,000.
Oh my God, that's crazy! I didn't see that's how it played out because I missed it. But oh man, that's pretty wild.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so and hey, look, the Johnny Wilson played and definitely got some looks, but it didn't end up mattering any. All right, we'll get into today.
Dude, forget about that. What about my play? At 2% ownership, it looked like he was going to. Remember see who caught the first pass of the game for Philly?
Kobe.
Grant Calcaterra.
Oh, Calcaterra. Yeah, he had 2 on the first drive.
Yeah, I'm like, literally nobody played him. So,
and who ended up in the winning lineups? It was Britton Covey in everything. And that was the one he's literally listed as their 5th receiver. It just happens sometimes. They trusted him with that. Wish I would have stole some inside information on that. All right. Well, we'll get into today's slate. Great job. Hopefully we can improve on it and do even better tonight. And starting off with New York and Washington. It's kind of a weird slate where you don't usually have this big gap between second games. Usually it's like a 7:07, 7:10, 7:10, 7:10, 7:10 to 7:40. So Mets in Washington. I think this is probably a spot where you could argue for the Mets, but I don't really find anything that stands out for me right off the bat. Usually I'll ask you, but I always start with my first one with just saying, not really that interested if I'm not interested.
Yeah, it's another slate where you have Arizona that's projecting through the roof, and so anything aside from Arizona is going to be a good pivot. But I'm not getting either of these hitters. I am getting a little bit of McGill as being like an SP2. So I will leave with that. Some McGill and none of the hitting, at least starting with. I'm just trying to look and see what I did in my sim stuff. Yeah, even in the sim stuff, I'm really not getting much of any of this. So no Mets, no Parker. Yeah, pretty much nothing.
Yeah, and I don't mind the McGill idea. He sort of has a low, like on a big slate, I always try to avoid those things because he's just like doesn't have like the longest leash or anything. But he's 7,700. It's a good matchup against a team with a 3.2 run total. So I'm in on that, even though Saberson's got it at 3.8. All right, next up, which one do you have? Oakland, Chicago.
This is a funny one. I'm not getting to. Am I getting to the Cubs? Yeah, I'm getting to the Cubs on FanDuel actually, but for some reason not on DraftKings. And hitting and pitching wise, I have his Wicks as like very legit here. Not so much as far as the raw projections go, but when I actually run these sims and I run my initial builds here, I actually have him as my top owned pitcher.
Wow.
Yeah, which is a little bizarre, but be prepared to get some of that if you run stuff like this. So you will have a decision to make. So I do like Wicks here. I guess he's kind of like a 1-2. I have him as like my sixth favorite pitcher projection wise. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting at him when I'm running these sims. So you like the Cubs again? You like Wicks? What's the win situation? What do you like here?
It's like same sort of win yesterday as it looks like this morning, but it can always change. Right now, it says it's basically 5 miles an hour, and I understand the Wicks idea. He's on my list, but it feels a little thin at the same time. Like he's a strange pitcher. I mean, he's been lit up most of the time lately, but he had pitched well against the Yankees when he pitched well. Like I don't really know what to do with him, and I have no idea. Like we've got him projected at 80 pitches, but sometimes he'll go out there and they'll let him throw like 55. And sometimes they'll go out there and he threw 95 2 starts ago. So I don't really know how to rate him. But yeah, low-owned Cubs definitely stand out to me as another option. And I actually think that getting to some of the Oakland, like if Jacob Wilson leads off again, he's 2,400 at shortstop, and that's a play I could see talking myself into. So I actually don't mind both sides, but more interested in the Cubs. I do have Wilson. If he leads off, is probably going to look like the best value or one of the best values in the slate because near minimum cost shortstop at the top. The only problem is every day it seems like a shortstop hits 2 home runs, so you're going to need something. All right, Detroit, KC.
Yeah, so similar vibe as this is the way I've been kind of looking at baseball all year. Reagan is the best play. I think by a pretty decent amount. And then when I actually run the sims, I'm not getting as much of him as the field's going to get. And I think the reason for that, not to bury the lead here, but I think this is the day that I might actually play the Diamondbacks. And if that's, I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't play the chalk pitcher with the chalk hitter. You just can't do it. And I think that I'm getting so much the Diamondbacks. That's why I just can't get that, not that much, but I can't prioritize Reagans in those lineups, I suppose. So, but he's certainly the best play. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. The other side of this, Casey Mize, not really. I have Kansas City more on FanDuel, but a little bit of DraftKings. So I have KC on my list. KC, pretty good hitting team here. So that's pretty much what I got. I got Reagan's and some Kansas City.
Yeah, at the moment, I agree. I think Reagan's is the guy I probably try to get overweight on. But I just think the strikeout upside is so high here. But I also really like Kansas City. Mize has been okay. He's not, he's an interesting guy. He's got some talent. He has these wild games where he's like striking out 2 guys an inning. He had a 10 strikeout game in 4 innings earlier, a few starts ago against Philly. And that was earlier in the season, but he's just coming back. I'm not even sure how much they're going to extend him, but I sort of like the idea of taking a shot on KC. It's 84 degrees there, wind sort of going across the field, but you can give me KC as one of the options to pivot off of Arizona today. All right. Next up, Philly in Milwaukee.
Well, Zach Wheeler is 10-5 as opposed to Reagan's, who's 9-8. So I certainly prefer Reagan's, but Wheeler is going to be a pretty natural pivot, I guess. Maybe even not natural. I mean, 700 more. That's a rough, worst matchup. That's a rough scene to try to take Wheeler. But yeah. So I'm only getting what percentage him? Not too much. So I can't quite do it. As far as what's his name, Montas? No, not really getting to that either. Really not getting much of anything. Not getting the hitting, not getting the pitching. I'm not getting anything here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out at I do like Wheeler, and I actually think Montas is like, if you wanted to get a low-owned guy with some upside, he's been terrific. And Philadelphia, we've seen them struggle against any righties at different points this season, and it's just sort of like they either score 10 runs, it feels like, or they just basically do nothing. So I don't mind taking a stab on either of the pitchers here. I'm not getting to any of the bats. If it was a smaller slate, I can make a case for Philly, but I don't think I need to on this slate. There's plenty of other options. We'll move over to St. Louis now. Pittsburgh and St. Louis with Lynn on his second start back after the injury.
Yeah, I can't believe it. Came back, had a very, very nice game. I'm not getting there though, but I don't know. Maybe I can get talked into it. What I am getting to, and we're back in this business again, is the St. Louis business.
Yeah,
St. Louis business is a tough business. It is. It's a rough business playing St. Louis, but Bailey Falter is not the greatest, and St. Louis seems like pretty. I'm getting like a full 27% of St. Louis. They're my second highest owned. As a matter of fact, I neglected. I mean, to mention, I am getting some Philly, but they're just not as much as some of the other teams. But yeah, I'm getting to all these same St. Louis guys that frustrate me quite a bit. But yep, Cardinals, and that's pretty much all I have.
Yeah, I think I prefer, if I was going to take a shot, probably Montas over Lynn. But I mean, Pittsburgh, maybe not. Pittsburgh has been pretty inept the second half of this year, and I have a little interest in St. Louis. I hate it. I hate doing it, but they're super cheap, and I think it's a good spot for them. So I do have St. Louis as a legitimate value stack. That's how I've got them labeled today. But I don't think I can do I don't think as of right now I'm planning to do the Lynn thing. I might change my mind before 6. All right. Then we've got, is it Toronto, Texas? Or did I miss one?
That is a big slate, huh? I didn't realize.
Well,
I mean, I guess somebody has to drop off here. I think this whole game drops off for me. I guess it makes sense. I mean, you could sort of make cases for all of it. Both pitchers are pretty decent, but both hitting teams are pretty good, which I guess is why I'm not seeing anything stand out. The pitchers are good enough to keep me off the hitting, and the hitting's probably good enough to keep me off the pitching. But like in a vacuum, yeah, all these are good fantasy guys sometimes, and so is Bassett. And Toronto's a good hitting team, and so is Texas. So I don't know. Any of these guys, any of these prongs appeal to you?
Yeah, I actually think that Bassett at super low ownership is probably the one I'm more interested in. I feel like for years now we've had the same thing with him. He just never projects well, and he has a ceiling. He's got as long a leash as anybody. They've always got him throwing less pitches than I would imagine that he would be his median. I mean, they've got him at 90 pitches, and he's thrown his last 4 starts was 98, 102, 92, 101. And the only reason he only threw 92 in that one was because that was the game he got lit up. So I actually think that Bassett is kind of interesting. And the Texas lineup is just not quite what it was to start the season. Now, Bassett always has a range of outcomes, guys, so maybe playing him on a big slate isn't the right thing. I guess you could say similar things about Eovaldi. Probably going to end up on the outside looking in, but I think Bassett is the super contrarian if you wanted to play it's a guy I could play Bassett and Montas. And hopefully I get their good games, and then that's the only way I could see playing the 5-man Arizona, because there's just so many options. But Arizona does stand out so much, so I do have Bassett as one I'm considering. All right, next up we have the Colorado game.
Currently, I'm eating the Arizona chalk. I don't know if that's where I'm going to end up. And I will say this: that I have had very little luck playing this way. You know, like. I hope to get away from teams like this, and most of my processes usually do get me away from teams like this, such high ownership. But when I'm getting to them, even with my processes, which is designed to not let me get to these teams, it just shows. I mean, that this. I think you have to respect like all the internals here that's making them such a good play, I guess. So I'm probably going to be. I'm hoping that you run enough of these sims and then things over, maybe some lineup changes gets me off of this. But for now, it's kind of it's a team I'm not going to avoid right now, even though it's a huge slate. I don't. It feels wrong, but that's just where I am right now. Colorado on the other side of this, as usual, is kind of a secondary, maybe tertiary option. I'm not getting the Montgomery. I'm not getting the Feldner.
Yeah, I definitely like Colorado here, and I actually think I might play them and not play much Arizona. I'm going to try to fade it. Look, it's a big slate. There's not a lot of obvious hitting spots though, so it's kind of weird. But I am good with the idea of taking a gamble. Actually, not even a gamble in Colorado, but taking a gamble and maybe being low on Arizona today. I think Colorado right now is my top stack, and it's only because the Dodgers are on the earlier, the 6:40 p.m. they start. They would be my favorite stack today, but instead it's going to be Colorado. So the only problem I want to point out, people always say Colorado. Just the reminder that top of that lineup, the better hitters are they're priced up now. We're getting them cheap for a while. They've hit the ball better the second half of the season, so that's the only thing I'd say. They're a little bit more expensive, but I'm completely fine going against Montgomery. He has been beyond dreadful. Like dreadful would be an understatement, and I just think it's time to play Colorado against him. So that's my favorite. All right, the White Sox in Los Angeles.
Run this back again, huh?
Yeah.
You got Griffin Canning, who's going to get double-digit ownership, I imagine. Everybody that's against the White Sox gets double-digit ownership. This is a little different. I mean, he's a righty against the White Sox, and again, I have to say I did go into last night sort of biased. I mean, I was getting the White Sox things anyway, but for those of you who've been following this channel, you know how much money I've made against Reed Detmers.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the guy there throws that looping curveball to righties and give me all those freaking righties from Seattle, all those righties from the White Sox, let them just tee off, This is a little different. So I am getting to a decent amount of Canning. Like I have, like right now, as I mentioned, Jordan Wicks would be my top owned pitcher, and Canning would be my second actually right now. And yet, on the other hand, I do think that you can continue to go right back to the White Sox in situations like this. So I do have a decent amount of White Sox also. I'm not getting to the Angels today, and nor am I getting to the Dean Martin today. So I think you can play both sides of the Canning experience and the White Sox experience.
Yeah, it was really weird the last game. They just let Canning keep going. He was just giving up run after run, and they just let him keep firing out there.
That's what they do. They had Detmers pitch 100 pitches, even though he's getting murdered.
It's like the only time they want to extend their pitchers is when they're getting crushed. I don't understand it exactly, but they are the only franchise in baseball who hasn't finished over 500 in 10 years. Yeah, I think that this, I guess, like for me, very basic four-pronger. I have some interest in the Angels. They're going to be super cheap. I have some interest in the White Sox. I have some interest in Canning. And if I have interest in Canning, I should have interest in Martin. Martin's been the better pitcher this season. They're neither, which is saying all that much. They're both very good matchups. So I'm sort of in on like, look, I probably end up going more with the hitting as the day goes on because you've got cheap stacks on either side, pitchers and bullpens that suck. Just feels like it could be a game that gets unleashed. So I do like the hitting, but I also I'd be again I'm going to play Canning. If I played Canning his last start against Minnesota, I'm going to play him against the White Sox some at least. And Davis Martin I think is in play as well. It's a weird slate, but that's what I've got. We had more pitchers on like that 6-game or 7-game slate yesterday. There was like 5 guys that I like better than anybody today, except for maybe Reagan's. All right, your Yankees are in Seattle.
Yeah, where runs usually go to die, and so I think that Wu is good enough, and the park is good enough to keep me from playing the Yankees. I don't know if I can get to Brian Wu per se, but definitely I think the combination of the park and the fact that Brian Wu is pretty good, going to keep me off the Yankees. Lewis Gill or Heel or whatever, I think this is a pretty obvious play. I really thought that he was going to show up more and be projected a little bit better. But then when I look at the ownership, I mean, I do see a 15% ownership projection, so people are going to play him. I
bet you by the end of the day it's like 25 or something like that.
Yeah, I figured that. So he's righty against Seattle, and it's just he does have plenty of upside. He's got a range of outcomes also. Does that mean I don't know if I can get to Seattle necessarily? But yeah, I guess Gill is a good play. But if he does drift to 25 to 30, I'm probably gonna end up with 0 because I mean already I'm looking and I see I'm only getting very little when I'm running the Sims at 15% projected ownership. So if he does drift up to I haven't projected 19% ownership now. So I guess that we'll just see where that goes.
Right. I just have a hard time believing the guy. So Reagan's has the highest strikeout expected number today, and Gill is almost the exact same as Wheeler and is almost 2,000 cheaper, and everybody loves to play guys against Seattle. So I just imagine that it's going to come up. Gill is a very strange pitcher. He's had his best pitching. A lot of his best outings have been against really good teams, and he got lit up by the White Sox the last time he faced them. You know what I mean? It's like he's a weird guy. But I do like Gill. And I do like Brian Wu for what it's worth. I think they're both completely in play. I think I have Gill as a higher priority because I think the strikeout upside is higher. I think Wu is an awesome pitcher and has been really good at home and just is again one of my favorites to win the Cy Young next year. But I really like both the pitching and there's no way I can get to the hitting on this kind of slate. I don't think. And then we have Houston and San Diego.
Yeah, these are some good pitchers in this game, and Hunter Brown and Michael King, same concept, not same concept, a little different, but both these pitchers are really good, but they both have tough matchups here. Both these sets of bats are good, but they have tough matchups here. I don't say hoping, but I don't think I'm going to get to much of this game.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a justification of what I would do here, and why I can't find anything here. I like the pitchers, but again, I just don't want to take. These are the worst strikeout matchups in baseball, basically, San Diego and Houston, and you get these really good pitchers in there, and it's just hard to know what to do with the game. It's also cooled down, so maybe that helps them a little, but I just think I prefer if I'm going to spend 96 or 9K or around that range. I'd rather play Gill at 8,800. I'd rather play Wheeler. I'd rather play Reagan's. I just think that's the route I'm going to take today. But that's the route everybody's going to take. And none of the hitting showed up at all for me here. So to round it out, sort of for me, is I like the KC I really like the Colorado. That's my favorite. St. Louis for value, Arizona 4 or less. The Angels and White Sox are probably where I'm going to end up doing my other stuff. So I actually think you can get in the expensive bats with the pitching you want. I'm sorry, with the high-end pitching, if you're willing to play teams like the White Sox, Angels, and St. Louis today. So that's sort of like my outlook. But trust Cheats, because he's been saying it on our live stuff, and that's going back to before you left. It's like 2 straight shows where you were talking about exactly what you were doing on FanDuel, and you finished second this time. You finished first last time. So we'll be live at 6 to go over it. Anything else, Cheats, before we get out of here?
No, we're good.
All right. Good luck to everybody today.